Both the Masters boys were good footballers too.
Yeah.
Chompy and Gavin played footy and cricket against them.
Well, Chompy's still playing
Yeah.
at 50 plus just to keep the B grade going.
I know.
And umpiring and cooking
I
chips.
know.
He does an incredible amount around the community to keep that club strong as well. So what he does by leading example on the field is just one side of the coin. Like that family pours an enormous amount into the club.
And that you're true. And it'll be interesting tomorrow at this zone meeting, and because my concern over the whole of the peninsula is the older volunteers after this year not coming back into it.
Correct.
Because they've had a year. One bloke there mentioned about it, Johnny Masters, I think, said about how much he'd enjoyed
doing nothing.
6 weeks.
I did enjoy going to that footy game yesterday. It was exactly like going to Mortlock, catching up with everyone. Because I hadn't been anywhere or seen bugger all apart from the 4 games we played.
Yeah.
But shit, I enjoyed the 6 weeks doing nothing too. That was heaven.
Yeah.
Well, he's only a young fella, really. You look at them older ones that have enjoyed it. Are they going to come back? What about the 42-year-olds that are playing B grade, that have missed the complete year? Are they going to play again? Don't know. There's more questions than answers.
It's certainly COVID, just like a lot of things. It's going to probably bring on the need for an answer sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Add that first suggestion. They've decided to put off. Well, they've decided to reject basically, and then put off for a year any further sort of decision at that last meeting.
Yeah.
But they're certainly not going with that plan.
I can't see how, other than a Marble Range who might get a certain amount of club support to go to a Great Flinders or something on that side.
But here he goes. Reese is the player. He gets a quick handball to Burgoyne, who goes to Casey Amos. And Casey is just...
I'm just getting deja vu. He used to destroy us when he played for Melly Park. Now he's doing the same thing.
Amos straight to Bois. So Amos, his position's not in jeopardy, but he still went to the coach.
Well, you're never sure. When you got Blaze K running around in the B grade, you're never sure.
Okay, so here's probably a change you wouldn't have seen coming. So Hatzimalis, who was absolutely killing it in the back lines and snagged a goal, has just swapped with Brock Lauby into the ruck.
So he's been pretty good, Hatzimalis. So Wes, oh jeez, he's kicked through the middle.
And I tell you what,
he's got 3.
We say Tynan clearly puts his hand up, but Boyd West, was there a cheer?
But I can't see Great Flinders going anywhere as far as amalgamation goes.
Why should they?
Exactly. And I can't see Port Lincoln doing it. Because the same thing applies. Why should they?
Why should they?
So...
Which leaves Kimber as the only one saying, but we've got to have change to survive. And I think all the other clubs are saying, no, we've got to have change so you can survive. And I think it's your problem. And as you can't change to solve your own problem, it seems to be still your problem.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to...
Yeah.
Well, I've talked to a few lock blokes and they're definitely not... They're definitely not going across.
Why would you want to drive all the way to get flogged by 20 goals? I mean, it's unlikely that they would go from Cummins for a good game, but to get flogged?
They're going to make a change, and a drastic change, and they're going to want it to be much more of a long term. Like we would want to be for our grandchildren. Our age group now are thinking, well, where is this heading for our grandchildren?
Yeah, well, that's this model that the SANFL are trying to adapt, I should say. Well, in fact, I only heard on the ABC radio this morning that they've put that on hold for 12 months.
Yeah.
Until the clubs can get themselves organised. But yeah, I don't know where that's going to finish up. I really don't, Roy. There's clearly travel is the big issue.
So you're obviously at the meeting.
I went just as an observer, not in any official capacity.
Yeah.
I was just curious to see what some of the conversation was. and there were no surprises there.
What was some of the conversation?
Oh well, I think without doubt the biggest hurdle is going to be travel. Does the Woodner Club and the Central Eyre Club want to go that way? There's lots of unknowns.
Farms are all getting bigger because that's the way nature's happening.
I mean, our neighbours, the property, the amount of property that our neighbours had, they virtually fielded a cricket team off their property. That's how many, people that lived in the area.
A lot of those farms are almost small towns, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, some of them had post offices.
Yeah.
Where our farm was, I think there's one owner owns about 6 or 7 of the farms around there, and when we first came farming, every farm had a share farmer, had a working man on it.
And their family.
And so the sheer numbers, with the modern technology in farming.
Well, there's a few elements to that, right?
Sarah's involvement, I think, the Prime clan have got about 6 or 7 farms or something as well.
How many farms are the Primes?
7.
7.
Yeah, 5 families that it supports, but 7 farms.
Yes. Who would have supported at least a dozen families?
Back in the day.
Probably more like 20.
You think about it though, the advances in technology, massive driver of the changes, farms getting bigger.
It's inevitable, yeah.
On human labour, but that's just one of the catalysts. You've also got a falling fertility rate. You've got a smaller household across the entire world.
What about playing without B grade?
That is a real option, no question about that.
Did that come up at the meeting?
It was raised. Some clubs would probably have to do that in any case if we stayed as we are.
Yes.
Or at the very least, be prepared to play with 14. Those sort of things were discussed. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't believe Tony Irvine went on to ABC and he won't give me an interview, right? He's like, no. Which is like, well, whatever, man.
You might ask him too.
Tricky question. Well, anyway, so he went on to ABC and said that mud map that they've done with the 3 squares on it is their plan that they wanted clubs to accept. Which when I put together the thing, my understanding as I presented was, well, this is just an opening sort of idea to get things going, but then Tony's there on the ABC saying, look, I really hope that they do this because the alternative is to do nothing and that's going to be disastrous. And I'm like, what? You're trying to sell this to them as it is? Without any... And he even said, how about this, he even said on the ABC thing, it's still on their website, you can hear it. If you haven't heard it, it's incredible.
No, I haven't.
Emma said to him, Emma Pedler said something about the who should be calling the shots, and he said, well, it shouldn't be the clubs because they have a bias.
Well, of course they've got a bias.
Yeah.
Gee.
Oh, you wouldn't read about that.
I thought, oh my God, you actually said that? You might be thinking that, Tony, but to say that? Why don't you just go on ABC Radio and say that, Tony? Because that would be bizarre.
But a few of those meetings that we've had where they had this big push about the direction of football, and he's been the head of it and that, it's like if there's not some change, they've failed. Yeah. So they're going to push for change regardless whether it's good or bad or indifferent.
Apparently.
Because, like you say, if there's any inaction, it looks like they haven't done their job. But...
Well, the clubs have actually told them that, no, we are going to have at least a year of inaction, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Because that's actually better for us. Yeah. Actually, one of the ironies of, and I'll go back to the other one now, but one of the ironies of what they're doing with footy is, as Buck Yates at Kimber told me, was he said, I always thought that we'd end up a town-based football, netball would end up town-based competitions.
Yeah.
But the irony of that is that town people notoriously don't travel as well as
Exactly. The
farm-based clubs.
Exactly right.
The players and netballers will go via bus. I think that will be the way to go, and the supporters will follow suit in their cars if they wish.
It's really tricky because
it's complex.
Distance is starting to come into it now. Like, we don't travel very far in Eastern Eyre, but Midwest they travel a long way. Great Flinders get so many players out of Lincoln. They don't want to go to Kimber. Kimber are too strong for Midwest. Way too strong.
Right through, yeah.
Through the junior grades to the senior grades and that. And they want to go join Great Flinders, but Great Flinders don't want them.
I think, following on from what we've just seen on the screen, I think that we will join another league in the next 2 or 3 years. There's certainly moves being mooted to do that, and I think we will go out as towns. Certainly Kimber will be able to have a team, probably bolstered by some lads from Darks Peak, Wadiki, if they want to. Cleve and surrounding district, Eastern Rangers, will probably have a team bolstered by what's left of Ports when they've disbanded, which in my humble opinion I think they will. Their numbers are getting just slowly depleted. So, but I think it's inevitable. Whether we like it or not, I think we will.
Well, that's why Kimber's so desperate really to find more people to play, because that's what you're running out of opponents.
Yes, and that, yeah, you're right.
Yep. And it's a long way from that corner to that corner.
And to be honest, how long will that last? If you're looking at that sort of distance, how many of those B graders that you have amalgamated to keep are going to drive that far for a B grade game?
They'll be gone after the first year.
I mean, you're kidding yourself if you think B graders are going to go that far.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole thing is it's even a non-starter. Like, they are not, it doesn't make any sense. Just go back to the way you were.
Yep. Now, it's a good point that you said before. The only reason that they ended up with B grade sides because the numbers improved and they did it. Whereas,
yeah. So,
I'm sure these leagues could survive without 5 or 6 of the over 40s playing each week.
Chompy Masters is over 50 and he's still playing just so they can keep having a B grade, because they played without a B grade for several years.
Yeah, that's right, they did too. Yeah.
So the only problem with them playing without a B grade is that some clubs have amalgamated too big, and we're talking West Coast Hawks and Kimber here mainly, are going to squawk that, hang on, we've got 2 teams. Yeah. We've got 45 blokes looking for a game. It's okay for Ports because they're going, well, really, we've only got 24 looking for a game anyway. So we're happy with that. But obviously the clubs that are the real big clubs are going to say, we're too big for that. We have to have a B grade. And probably the powers that be might have to say, well, you do actually have 2 teams. Because I mean, what they could do with would solve the problem up there if Eastern Rangers and Kimber formed a 2-club competition and played each other every week, they could survive. And then Ports and all the other clubs can get on with it and they can play a competition and not get killed every couple of weeks by 30 goals.
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot easier for Chompy Masters to find the motivation to keep turning up and cooking the chips and doing the gate and everything else. And then I'll tell you what, if they want to, as it's such a training run, a 30-goal margin is a training run, right, famously. So why don't Kimber and Eastern Rangers, if they are insistent that they have to be big because we have to win premierships, because otherwise our balls will shrink and our women won't love us anymore. Well, why don't you play cardboard cutouts on the other weeks?
Yeah, that's right.
Or have training.
Yeah.
On the other weeks. Yeah. So you're only playing each other every 3rd or 4th week.
Yeah.
And you just have training in the meantime.
Yeah.
And then you get together and you have a good game.
And you're playing a grand final.
Because you're going to play in the grand final anyway, as you know.
Whether there's 4 behind them or not.
It makes no difference. It's still you two. So you get on with it. Everyone else who wants to have a competition, come over here and have a good competition, and football will carry on and flourish and thrive.
It's an interesting concept, and it sounds like really left field, but the fact is it could work because the volunteers wouldn't be working as hard for that 2-team comp, because for one Saturday there's just
training run,
They can just
then they play and they can have a weekend off to actually live a life and take their families to Adelaide or whatever. That it might end up a lot better environment that the people would go to that club or that
two-team
ground, two-team comp.
Because their wives are happy, they get to have a family life.
Yeah, it's on the surface when you first say it, you think, oh, just ridiculous idea, but it could work.
Because it's working at the moment.
Yeah.
A two-team comp.
Yeah, they're only training on that other one.
What's 20 goals to 1 against Cow?
Yeah, exactly.
And in fact, if you played cardboard cutouts, it wouldn't have been that much worse.
No, you'd probably run into a few and trip yourself over.
And you'd even get bored and stop kicking them so quick by the third quarter.
Yeah.
So you'd probably only kick 20 goals to 1 anyway. Well, not to 1, you'd kick 20 goals to nothing, obviously.
Well, unfortunately, the Tigers haven't got Joel Fitz today. He's out. He's got a shoulder injury, so he's out for 4 or 5 weeks, which is a shame. He's been obviously kicked 22 goals the other week, and got his 1000th goal in country club footy, so that's a great result. Yes, and
huge effort for the club.
He certainly would have been on target for 100 goals this year, no doubt about that. He's having a tremendous year. So.
Yeah. Well, there's no law that says you have to play like the way it's all evolved. Like you play every week, but you know they could. Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting if you ever drew it up.
If they are right and they cannot demerge, if they are right and they cannot become Buckalimba and Waterkelly, then their option they either need to join an elite competition and play in Port Lincoln under whatever conditions that might be.
Yeah.
They might have to play all their home games at Cleve. Who knows? But their other option is to play a two-club league.
That's right.
And which it virtually is now anyway.
Yeah.
And either have training runs in the weeks in between, or they play against cardboard cutouts on the field. Which, if you're winning 20 goals to 1,
during COVID, some clubs have come up with very good plans about that.
Yes, and really, that will give you a long-term sustainable competition in which you are only playing elite football and netball.
Sustainability is what it's all about.
And the same 2 teams are going to be in the grand final as what are in the grand final now.
Yeah.
Which is the same as what it is now.
That's right. I don't think it's that strange. And some of those, you might think they're left field ideas, they may have to be implemented.
Because this is an unusual area.
Exactly.
not enough people.
Well, it's going to be interesting tomorrow anyway. Not that anything's going to be decided, but just listening to what's come out of this president's meeting and a bit of the SANFL pushing it. But I'm not sure what the SANFL agenda is, why I don't think that they can actually, encourage leagues to do things, but I think they haven't got any power to push it.
No, but the Kimber thing is the problem. It is the problem. Is it a problem that Cal is too small? That's just the way things are. That's not the demise of the competition. Is it a problem that Ports are too small? No, it's just the way they are. Is it a problem that Kimber's too big? Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah.
That's how people perceive it as well.
There was plenty of arguments in the early days that they should have been made to have 2 teams in Kimber, and but they didn't want that either because they'd had all that reconstruction. So they said, no, we're going with this one, and Waddy can go that way. And like history shows, that didn't last. It was good while it was going because they had some bloody good players out there at Wadiki.
And I know one of the issues at the moment too is that Kimber and Rangers want to go somewhere where they're going to get competition.
To mark the occasion of the 30th anniversary of the Kimber Districts Football Club, it's the visit of Eastern Rangers, so a top-of-the-table clash in the Eastern Eyre Football League 2019.
Well, that's all very well, and I get that that's how they're feeling and that's what they want after the last few years that they've had, but that's not necessarily going to be the number one priority for the restructure.
To come up to their level.
I think that's a little bit of a stumbling block as well. That, if we're going anywhere, we want to go somewhere where we're going to have competition. Well, everything goes in cycles.
And they're prepared to travel, apparently.
Yeah.
So anything's possible. So
exactly.
Really, we could see them playing in the Port Lincoln Football League.
Yeah.
Plenty of Kimber people travel down.
If they want
travel
to
down
get a better game, they're going to have to, because if you go west, Woodner are nearly buggered.
Well, Woodner, things aren't good up there for numbers. No, I've seen photographs of their B grade, and it's a fellow that weighed 15 stone sitting alongside a colt, a little.
That's right. They're really struggling, yeah. Although they're looking all right this year.
Kelch seems to have the upper hand at the moment in the ruck. Another hit out straight to McGuinness, but wrapped up beautifully.
We see a fair bit of that today. Tyson Jackson's really good at the body. I think he might have the job on Burton by the look of things.
Jess Kenny, hard at it. Burton.
There's Burton now.
Gets it out, the big ruckman. Kelch goes back to Shannon Haynes. Kicks it in. Dylan Monnier has used his body well. Keeps his feet, gives his hands. We've got here Max Shack, back to Montgomery. Kicks it in to Braden Holmes again.
It's not only Wooden. I think a lot of the teams that they're all saying it's okay, but it's only sort of just,
Good tackle in there by Buzz, I reckon. Got wrapped up primary.
Johnny close. And he's stuck one through.
Did you see any of the early days of the Eastern Air League?
Yeah.
How was that when it started? I mean, you obviously had Kimber come in very strong.
Yeah.
Fulton picks the ball away, sharks it away from the Kelly player. Fulton's got the ball again here. And his left leg kick looking for Miller, but in front's the Kelly player.
Yeah, the split really was never right. I mean, Kimber came in as Kimber, of course, but they Kelly and Buckleboo and Kimber, the three clubs, and it left Waterkey sort of on a limb. They joined in with Dark Peak, of course, and they did very well in the first in the initial stages of Eastern Air too, because they had 3 or 4 really top players there too.
They still had a good A grade when they folded for the lack of a B grade.
Yeah. Didn't have the numbers. Comes back to numbers again.
And the need to have B grade.
Yeah, and the need to have a B grade. That's right.
You had to push straight in, leave school and push straight into the A grade when you were good enough to make it.
Well, when I first started playing football, I mean, as soon as you were big enough and strong enough, you played with the men. I mean, there was more.
That's Dark Peak playing.
Yeah, I know, I can see it, yeah.
With you in there?
Yeah, well.
I would be in the 70s, yeah.
What was it like going to the football in your day? Was it a real bummer because you didn't have B grade, or was it pretty exciting? Was it great?
Didn't know any difference. I mean, we went along. I mean, the girls played their netball. There was always netball. Netball always followed the footy, of course. And that's an issue now with Cow. That's a huge issue with Cow. I mean, they've sort of been left in a no-win situation there. I mean, they've got Whyalla, which is an hour away, I suppose. But if they go to Whyalla, well, I mean, the girls won't be able to follow the football because their football's played on a Sunday. And the netball's played sometimes in Whyalla through the week. They even have matches through the week and on Saturdays. So, I mean, that wouldn't work as a family. That wouldn't work necessarily very well.
So they're really committed to country football?
Even though this year has been an exception because there's been a dozen or so Cow lads go to Whyalla and play up there because of COVID. Well, I mean, everything's been thrown out the door with the COVID.
Cow is a town of 1,000 people. It will always have a football and netball club.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of where they're going to play.
Yeah, where they're going to play and who they're going to go in with.
Well, it looks like some of the Great Flinders clubs will go into Port Lincoln.
Yeah.
As Pacer mentioned.
Well, years ago, there weren't there. I'm not that familiar with the Great Flinders, but there was a period when some of 2 or 3 of Great Flinders teams did participate in the Port Lincoln Football League, wasn't there?
Tumby Bay.
Tumby Bay, yeah.
Eyre United.
Yeah, true.
When the old Eastern Eyre Peninsula Football Association or League folded, that's when, that folded because Tumby Bay, looking for better competition, went into Port Lincoln. Ungara, Lipson, and Butler Tanks amalgamated to form Eyre United, and went into Port Lincoln as well until they both went to Great Flinders. But if they went and into the new league that has been drawn up by the SANFL with Eastern Eyre, as Tim Davis, the president of Marble Range, says,
there's two ways of looking at it. If we stay and do what we're doing, and we talked before that someone from Kapini might have to drive for over 2 hours to Kimber for footy, then Port Lincoln League's going to be an option for some of these people in the lower EP, and we focus on our country style club, and we may be stronger for it if we're not involved in an amalgamation. There is suggestions, or there's been discussions where people will say, well, 4 hour round trip's too much, and
playing for Marble Range is a lot more convenient.
Yep, and a big thing that came out of this year with some of the junior players coming through, especially any of the junior grades, but especially the 15s and 17s, that our junior football is very strong because it's only a 2-year age gap, and this year it was every team was full of players. The competition in our junior football this year and every year is probably stronger than the range of age groups north, where they sort of maybe from 12 to 16. We're sort of 15, 16, and so the feedback and some of the comments from those up north was their lads definitely enjoyed playing down here at a higher level of competition, where they might be sort of backing off on tackling a 12-year-old hard. They're in and developing their footy skills against kids the same age. So we also have things that are going for us. If a northern club was to come down, or a northern region was coming down and join the Lincoln League, or Lincoln League was going to amalgamate, we've got good numbers and lots of grades of juniors where there's going to be some compromise if there's any amalgamation in the future in that direction. So,
but certainly something that they might want to consider is how well Marble Range would do out of Eastern Eyre and Great Flinders amalgamating.
That's definitely something we take into consideration. Is we're in a strong position. We're in a strong position in the in our location, and I'd like to think we're the first option for a lot of those people to come and talk to us. And the proof's in our putting on how we handle our juniors. So
great club, you'll do really well. It would be logical, and Marble Range are just waiting with open arms for a lot of families to go, well, we are not driving 4 hour round trips for a game of junior footy, we'll go and play for Marble Range.
Yeah.
So there's going to be those Cummins clubs and Tumby Bay
will automatically go south.
They are going to play in Port Lincoln. It has certainly been talked about, as a lot of people have said, at official level. Sorry.
Marble Range have positioned themselves really well for that, if it ever is to happen. So
yeah, we could have waybacks in Marble Range in a great Flinders.
Well, there you go.
And that would be a great Flinders.
It'd be interesting, which you've done a bit of work on there, Roy, the future of Eyre Peninsula football, and whether the year off for many of these country leagues, how that will look next year.
Yeah. Correct weight. But of course, the Great Flinders Cummins clubs, Tumby Bay, are going to go and play in Port Lincoln, which is going to leave clubs the size of Lock, Eyre United, to go in with Eastern Eyre, which is not going to give Kimber anyone to play against.
No.
So you still have an elephant.
Yeah, and then you've got Far West, And you say far western, I mean, the word far, I mean, you're talking travel, serious travel. That's the big issue up there, isn't it?
It is, and the fact that the biggest, the people who like travel the least are the people living in Jeanette.
Yeah, so they're not ever going to be in favour of that move, are they?
Well, if they are talking amalgamating with other clubs or leagues around them, they're really talking about still being a Ceduna-based competition. There are travel issues with Cniba not being well known for travelling very, very far.
Well won by Woodner, and I believe they got a fair chance of taking out the big prize today. It was won by Bois.
I mean, any argument about Cniba's record for not being very pleasant sort of company is sort of a moot point because they don't travel.
No.
How can Cniba be in any expanded competition?
That's right. Mallee Park seemed to be able to survive.
Well, they win premierships.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be writing them off.
No, fair enough.
And in the last game, a great win to Kelly, and the best on the ground was won by S. Seal.
Well, it was a great game out there today. All our fellas, we really enjoyed that game. It's one of the best games we've played this year. I'd like to thank Wirral for putting on a show like this. It's great. Bad luck, Cniba couldn't put up a little bit better effort. We all had $1,200, but we couldn't make it. $800.
Bad luck they didn't put up a better effort. Exactly, they don't travel. That's going to be a tricky one too. I mean, really, the Eastern Air's got that problem there that they've got simply a super club. Well, now they've got two super clubs. And Cowell are up and down depending on how many they can get out of Whyalla, of course. And then you've got Ports who are just too small to really compete.
Well, without recruiting, it's
We never have the population base to compete for sure.
I was talking to Beefy yesterday at Lincoln, and he said, we can't go back. Like, people are going down there and seeing all this good football going on, because it is a good competition down there with a few elite players from this way, and especially great Flinders in there, bolstered their ranks. You go down there, everything's laid on, everyone's happy going to the shops and, you know, stay a night in the Lincoln Hotel or something.
Don't have to work cooking chips all day or on the gate.
It still comes back to the football people will go and kids will miss out, won't they? So that's the issue. Unless you want to have a separate junior competition, which they did this year anyway. They did. Which worked quite well. So.
You see that? It worked for the football?
Yeah.
The netball did it as well.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And it worked for the netball?
Yeah, I think it did. I don't think that the netball necessarily thought it was ideal, but it was better than nothing. And the footy were doing it at any rate, so, you know, let's follow. And yeah, it did work. The issue about that was that, you know, they travelled on the Saturday to do something, and then they sort of backed up on the Sunday, some families. But for those families who didn't want to do the travel, they did it on the Sunday, and their kids were still getting to do something.
Yep.
Yeah, and there was only 4 teams, wasn't there? And all 4 teams got to play on the one day. So it was a round robin at Karku over one Sunday, and then they all went to Tumby Bay, and all the teams went there. So, you know, like I say, it was only the one lot of catering.
And Eastern Air did the same thing.
Yeah.
Each club hosted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So.
And that worked. So
they can make it work.
That was a worthwhile exercise.
Yeah, exactly.
Something that we did when I, all the way through primary school in the Barossa Valley.
Yeah.
If you wanted to play for Anguston in the under-12s at the half-time, you only got 10 minutes, which of course we all did. If you wanted to play full game, you went to Nuriutpa High School every Saturday morning, and everyone got pulled into whoever was there on the day, which was a huge number.
Yeah, yeah.
And they got divided into teams, and that's where I first saw a St Kilda jumper.
Yeah, yeah.
As we didn't really have AFL then, and we played full games of football, and we did that because we wanted to play a full game, and then we would go to the venue for the day and play a half-time game. 5 minutes each way. That worked. And I remember as a kid being happy with that. In fact, I remember being delighted as that. 2 reasons. First of all, we got to play a full game. And secondly, they were all good games because we were divided into equal teams.
Just got to have good junior program and good, a good vision, really.
Well, look, what we're talking about, as one of those columns from 1988 was from the Tribune, Cleve Tribune. It was saying the Save Kimber thing. Well, we're back there again because, as Kev Jackson says, the best decisions weren't made at the time. For the long-term future of football, we are back at that same situation that we're talking about, the survival of football and netball at Kimber. Because Ports will survive. Geographically, they can go to Great Flinders. But Kimber are really isolated, sorry.
Ports seem to have a following where they can get a core group of blokes from Lincoln to come up there that enjoy that lifestyle. So,
because they're close enough.
Eh?
They're close enough.
Yeah, providing they keep that going, whether they're playing in the Kimber League or in the Great Flinders, they've got the ability. I think they've got the club there, hierarchy to push that and survive. I don't think they'll just lie down.
No, you've got to remember that Ports is really run by Warminder.
Yeah.
And they are some of the strongest individuals, certainly anywhere in the world, probably.
Yeah.
As you know, with the Masters and the Primes and that, they make them of granite up there.
Yeah.
And you're not going to knock them off their feet easily.
No.
So I think Ports are probably, geographically and everything else, they're probably pretty solid, really.
Yeah.
And really the problem comes back to, okay, Kimber, do you want to have footy and netball? Because it seems like playing, including you in your current incarnation in any competition is going to be not very good for anyone. You're lucky that Ports have put up with the situation for this long.
Yeah. I think, if Ports were involved in Great Flinders, I reckon they'd have more support from those fringe players from Lincoln that would come there. Because they're not travelling all the way to
Kimber. Correct.
So that would make them stronger in that regard alone.
There's a stronger argument for them not playing against Kimber than there is for playing against Kimber, that's right. And so Kimber should keep in mind that they're really lucky they've got
them
competition to play in. And of course it's in their constitution, like it's in every club's constitution, to provide opportunities for participation in sport. Nowhere does it say in anyone's constitution that they are there to provide the highest standard of competition possible because they want to, say, feed elite competitions like the AFL ultimately.
Yeah.
So often what you're getting at those league meetings is just the delegates giving their opinion without consulting the club.
2
members.
blokes giving you what they think.
Yeah.
Nominated delegates, and that's all you get.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Kimber's fault as a whole that decision was taken. They were dominant as soon as they came in 1989. Yeah. In fact, interestingly, the first game that I ever covered for the Port Lincoln Times was the first game that Kimber Districts ever played, and that was a curtain raiser to Port Adelaide, West Adelaide at Tumby Bay against Ramblers. I've got the match report, and my introduction says Kimber Districts sounded a warning to the new Eastern Eyre competition by flogging the pants off of reigning Great Flinders Premier Ramblers, which was pretty much on the mark because they went on to win most of the premierships after that.
Yep, that's right. And it's a tricky thing, but again, all we're talking about is on-field success, and it's like I said before, it's much more than that.
Got all these memories from back then. I'm the only one that was still playing footy. All the rest of me young blokes, and I've got that burnt in my memory of what happened and how the
Lyle Graham.
our association executives got reamed by the Kimber ones. They got their way, and we're still paying the price 30 odd years later.
Bloody oath.
I've got told by my wife that I need to let things go.
Put that one on the list.
Yeah.
Initially, they were Dark Peak. There was Dark Peak, Waterkey, so it was really only 3 teams that were Kimber, and Waterkey went with Dark Peak, but that only lasted, I don't know, how many years?
6.
5 or 6, not many, and then it was all into one.
Which they knew that was going to be the case when they did it.
Yeah. Probably,
yeah.
Eastern Eyre, as it then became, they didn't, they wouldn't have, like the 4 teams, something had to happen for the 4 teams. They wouldn't accept the 4 teams as a single team, like it was a league. So Waterkey branched out and went to Dark Peak. And they knew the day they went that they only had a 10-year lifespan.
Because there's no kids coming on, and that's where football comes from, but we never had any kids. Oh, a few, and so did Dark Peak. But no, that we knew we were only at 8 years, and that would be the end of it.
Carolina once had its own league, little owners. That's unbelievable, isn't it? That shows
incredible
you how small the farms were and how many people were involved. And well, you only got to look at Kelly, you know, how strong they were. There must have been that many farms, only 1,000 acres and 1,200 that probably had working men as well.
Well, if you look at how strong Kimber are, Kelly would probably still have a strong team.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, if they did divide it, yeah.
Well, it's just a shame that the Rideau secretary famously binned the letter from Dark Peak, which meant that we didn't see Rideau Dark Peak, which would have been logical and terrific. Were you around then?
I was president of Dark Peak, and I was at the amalgamation meeting in Rideau change rooms. We had very positive conversations with the delegates of the footy side, but I won't go into any more after that. But we then looked to Waterkey, knowing full well that our population for Dark Peak and Waterkey didn't have as Snow said in that grab there, we always thought it was only a 7 to 8 year period, but we're right, we had a fabulous group of people at the time, and so we gladly made the amalgamation. It made sense geographically, it made sense socially because we already got on well, golf.
Two very similar cultures of clubs.
Yeah, and so Ronnie Havelberg became president, I was vice president in that first year, and it was a wonderful time.
It's a shame that Rideau and Dark Peak didn't amalgamate, because famously the Rideau secretary binned the letter from Dark Peak, and they figured that when you fold, like, you can just come and play for us, that'd be right. But they all drove past Rideau, of course, in the end, when Dark Peak Waterkey folded, and John Humphreys actually ended up playing for Cleve, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But if they had if Rideau had gone in with Dark Peak, then perhaps you would have seen Kelly say Waterkey, Waterkelly Football Club, and Buckleboo Kimber.
Yeah, and that would have been a better split.
Yeah.
Looking back on it now. Yeah.
That would have been Buckalimba.
See Cleve. Cleve's a bit like Kimber. I mean, Cleve didn't have the. You wouldn't think so. I mean, Cleve's a biggish country town. Players would come to Cleve and they'd go out and play in they'd go to Arna Bay or go to Rideau or go somewhere rather than play with the locals, because the locals were regarded as unorganised and bloody, you wouldn't pay for them sort of thing, you know. So they were a bit like Kimber. I mean, they ran out of numbers too, so they shouldn't have.
Well,
it always comes back to our little town again, where we're sort of.
It's amazing to think that Cleve, when that happened, that we, like down the lower end of the peninsula, you didn't believe that Cleve were going to have to amalgamate because you took them as the
powerhouse that they were.
Well, reasonable sized town and all that. You just think, how?
That's right. Yeah, but certainly, if Kimber has really caused a problem that there is no solution to other than them demerging.
Yeah.
But they say that's impossible. We can't demerge.
It happened because in a hurry, in a rush, so that the amalgamation could happen. But I just don't know that they actually did the numbers game, and I think that that's one of the things that they'll be very aware of this time round. Hopefully they've learnt from the experience, and that they will think about the numbers game, because I know, I think I spoke to you earlier about the fact that we've already had a committee way back with Don McSweeney and myself and a couple of others who did or have done that work, and exactly where we said the numbers would be back then is exactly where the numbers are now.
So as long as they're happy to go along and cook chips and do the gate and to get killed by 30 goals for another 30 years, then you guys are solid. Now, what you're a bit worried about is that maybe you've flogged them a bit much and they're not going to do that forever.
Our communities have been shrinking, and they still are. I mean, we're in trouble again for numbers at this stage, and we've got this district. But Cleve have got twice as big a district, and Cleve is now a club, or they call themselves Eastern Rangers, but they're a club that's drawn from what was Cleve, Rudell, Owlsper Park, Dark Peak. And they travel there. You go right out northwest of Cleve, halfway to Widner, and they play in at Cleve.
Yes.
I mean, it's massive. It's a massive thing to organise such a huge area.
It's a huge area with not many people. I think there's only about 6,000 people.
Yeah, that's the issue, and becoming more and more as time goes by, and less as time goes by. That's the problem. The young kids come to go to the bigger towns for work and whatever, and farms get bigger. Population gets less.
Has it ever been different on Eyre Peninsula, is what I'm saying?
Has it ever been different?
You look at the entire history of Eastern Eyre League, it's what, 4 teams now. It was 6 when it was right before it changed. And its origin, is, as far back as 40 clubs if you look at the 5 or 6 different leagues that make that up. It's mind-blowing when you look at the lineage of each one of those clubs and what it's been through to arrive at where it is, and the relationships that must have existed for those to have been associations on their own. It's quite phenomenal.
How many leagues did there used to be on Eyre Peninsula?
Well, that's what I'm telling you. It's close to like 6 leagues. I'm pretty sure.
In the history?
Some of them, the moving and the shaping between, I think the earliest club that's in Eastern Eyre League was 1901, and Lyons will be brilliant. He'll fill you in on all of this.
So you're talking about 6 leagues just in this area?
Just in the Eastern Eyre.
Just in the Eastern Eyre League area, yeah.
League area.
But in 1964 was when we began Colts. That was the first year of Colts. And in 73 was when we started trying to play B grade in earnest, and so every club then had to provide 2 senior teams and 2 junior teams. And in some respects that was the beginning of the end for some clubs. They just didn't have the numbers, and so it forced amalgamations.
It's probably, I can go right back for when I first started playing footy. And there'd have been dozens of little leagues on Eyre Peninsula, like the Franklin Harbour Football Association. Excuse me. And then I think it was I'm not sure, it was probably around about late 1960s when the meeting took place, and they decided, well, they'd go with Cleveland districts for a trial year. And I think that particular year there were about 16 clubs in that trial year, which eventually the following year the County Jervois Football League was formed. I think it was only the one year that trial year was.
This is one of your games too.
Yeah.
16.
Eastern Eyre Peninsula was Tubby Bay, Lipson, Ungara, Butler Tanks and Port Newell. And that existed till 1962. And Tubby won the grand final and immediately said they're going to go and play in the Port Lincoln League next year.
Really?
So in 63, Lipson, Ungara, Butler Tanks all amalgamated to become Eyre United, and they played at Ungara. And Port Newell, as a club, joined the County Jerboys Association, which, and its name then was, that was the first year of County Jerboys, because the previous season in '62 it was called the Cleve Cowell League, and we had 10 teams with no B grade.
Yeah, there was no B grade then, and they only brought the B grade in probably in the last 2 years that I was there.
70s, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Late 70s?
Well, I left in February '72, so I played 70 and 71. That's when the B grade came in.
There you go.
Yeah.
So most of the history of these clubs has been without B grade.
Yeah.
And if you did away with the B grade, then a lot more clubs would obviously be able to field one team, and then you could have, in fact, you could even go back to having the old, County Jerboys pretty much.
Yeah, maybe you could. Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't know the numbers, but
Ridow could have their club back, and
yeah. Well, that means you'd split Cleve and Cowell again.
Yeah.
Cleve's going backwards, and Cowell's not going backwards, but they just haven't got the kids.
That's right.
You know, there's. That Cowell's got the tourist aspect and the oysters and all that sort of stuff, plus the mine. But they don't seem to have the kids. Full stop. So I don't think you're going to get. What did they? I don't know. The other day they got done by played Eastern Rangers again and kicked 20 odd goals to 1 or something.
Might be in his distance. We'll see. He's got under it. Looks like a good kick. Well, he's opened up. Great kick. Started off the game. First goal for the year.
It's a bit savage like that. And I think that's one of the, certainly looking at the restructure of football over on Eyre Peninsula, I think one of the, what's their driving factor from what I hear and what I observe is they want to keep standards up because of that being better for feeding league football in Adelaide and the AFL, right? But their solution to that is like we've got to have really big, stronger clubs. And that's why they've sort of come up with the idea of 4-hour journeys to take your kids to the footy, because that makes sense if you're looking at the clubs have got to be bigger and stronger. Well, what about what the SANFL's done when they took over juniors in Adelaide?
Yeah.
Have you heard about that situation?
No, I haven't.
Yes, let's go.
When they took over from, before it was run by the sort of, they had each area sort of ran its own thing.
Yeah.
And then the SANFL came in a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, and said, no, they'll run the show, and much better, and they'll do it on a merit basis. So now it means if your under 12s are going really well, they're going to be playing in this association here, or this division. And if the under 14s aren't going so well, they're going to be playing in this division over here. So it means that if you've got one boy in under 12, one in under 14s, and one in under 16, they're playing in 3 different places across Adelaide on the same day.
Yes, that's stupid. That's stupid.
Dad. When I was reading about that the other day, and I thought, oh, Dad would be rolling over in his grave, because it is going to be, people are going to stop. They're going to start going to soccer or something else. The parents will go where they can keep their families together. One of the arguments is, netball, mate. Excuse me, they all go to Priceline Stadium. Like, they're all going to the one venue. Yes, they might be playing in different grades and, more graded, like they actually grade into the grades, but they're all in the one place. Like, I'm not taking one daughter to Elizabeth and my other daughter to Alberton, we're all going to the one place. I couldn't believe the other day I was talking to a parent who has 3 sons and a daughter. So she comes with the daughter to Priceline, but they start at 8 o'clock in the morning with their youngest son, and he plays at Rosewater, I think. Well, it was playing at Rosewater that day, that's right. Then another one had to go to Morfett Vale, and then another one had to go to Flagstaff Hill, or like 3 different age groups. That she said, she didn't even have work it out that she had 2 in the one age group at one time. So the father, and so therefore the grandfather had to deal with the oldest one because they weren't going to get from the middle one to, that's just ludicrous.
And it's in the constitution of every club that they're there to provide opportunities for participation.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, I believe that the constitution nowhere says we are here to feed players into the AFL system.
Yeah, well, that's probably true.
Well, it's not in any of their constitutions that they're there to produce elite players.
No.
Good contest there.
Oh,
Just
good.
got the leg away. Good tackle.
That was good pressure
Just had
by
a
Todd
handful of-
Schumann.
Yeah, a handful of jumper and did enough to affect the kick.
So Klingberg's got it. Usually a pretty good kick. Fires a Wycamp. Wycamp just go straight down the middle there, son. No messing around. Get it in quick.
He's been told.
Here he goes. Kicks it in.
That's not a bad spot to put it, is it?
And
oh, I think it's just
it was
been touched. Yeah.
So we went through 62, and our Arna Bay won the premiership that year in 62. And the next year it was wholesale change. There's 2 teams at Riddell amalgamated. Cowell had 3 clubs, they became 2.
Well, getting back a bit now, 61 and 62, Cowell and Cleve, Franklin Harbour and Cleve League merged, or didn't amalgamate, they merged for 2 years, and it was went to a 10-team league in 61 and 62, and 1963 we formed the County Jervois, and Port Neal joined our league. So there was 10 teams in our league at one stage.
With no B grade, of course.
With no B grade.
If you look at the pattern, whenever they want to rationalise, they introduce a really big competition with the intention of rationalising it down, which is what they did with Cleve Cow becoming Jervois, and then, oh, by the way, you've got to have a B grade as well. Oh, so we're not in it? No, sorry Mangalo, sorry Aylesbury Park, sorry Warminda, etc, etc.
Yeah, because they can't field it.
Yeah, so what we meant by a bigger competition is a bigger competition without you guys in it. How'd you like to play for us?
It's easy to flick them out when you know they can't field a B grade.
That's right.
Come on, fellas, get it up there. Let's get out, video. We will. Hey, Chompy. Go, Coggy. You're hot, Ron!
Get him, Anthony!
Why'd you go for the bloody ball, Hines?
No, you fairy!
Paper knives and spaghetti. Medals, that won't do you, bro.
I understand.
Cloudy,
And so in 63 we still had a pretty big league, but we never had B grade, and there was no junior grades. Arna Bay had just a 2A and a B grade for netball, and that was it. So the kids virtually had to start in B grade and then progress to A. And there was no organised junior netball or football.
Yeah. And I believe that at the same time there was a rash of clubs folding because they decided that they would introduce B grade at the same time.
That's right. That's right. That is so true.
Warminda disappeared.
Mangalo.
Aylesbury Park, Mangalo.
Right. Yeah.
See, when Warminda folded, there was only a couple of players went on playing anywhere else.
But they had a very good crop of young fellas who went to Port Neal and pretty much were the foundation.
that wasn't immediate, but that was over the next couple of years. They drifted down to Port Neal to have the kids to get a game. And in fact, all of the lads that came from Warminda played for Port Neal. None of them came. Oh, my brother brought young John in to play for us in Colts. And his girls played a bit of junior netball there for a while too. Yeah.
Yep.
So we, County Zerboys was formed with what? With eight teams, I suppose, was it? A long time ago. And the beauty of country sport is that family situation where if you've got a mixed family, I mean, you go along to your sport, and I mean, your daughter plays netball, and
But socialising.
see, our eldest son, he played for North Wales. He went up there and got
way back at Colt.
and played for a while. But we went to St Joseph, Port Lincoln, played for Waybacks, and loved it down there. And then when he got work in Whyalla while he played for North Whyalla, we'd go up occasionally and see his footy. And as you say, there'd be no one at the footy.
That's right, because there's no netball.
Memorial Oval. I mean,
that just went back to your own little club room.
Yeah, the boys wouldn't even share in the where they played.
Yep.
The country towns are better at going to football games than, say, Lincoln, because I was horrified when I went down there to see Chris play. There were nobody there.
Which is true.
Yeah. And that's you know, I mean, I'm sure that Lincoln footy gets pretty good crowds, but
not as big as.
Nah, you're not going to get. I mean, that's just purely a mathematical equation. You know, you've got everyone coming through the gate, the grandparents, parents, all the kids that are playing are at the one venue. I mean, you got to look. You look at it here. You can be sitting in this room where we are. You can be watching footy there and watching netball there, and
because you've got. That's right.
You've
got double the crowd immediately because you've got netball.
That's right. And that's really important to people. And that, you know, that expands then onto your club in general. You know, your clubs that do tees and...
Yeah. And young footballers have a great time with young netballers.
Yeah.
It's been proven over time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's certainly a draw card for a lot of the people that come to Great Flinders to play football. We're out of Port Lincoln and come for that reason. You know, their partners can play netball. They've got that sort of club environment as well. And
yeah, well, unfortunately in Port Lincoln, footy's never followed the netball, or netball's never followed the footy, I should say. Is what it is, but yeah, it's.
It wouldn't be a bad thing.
No, look, I think it's fantastic, and unfortunately we do lose some players. Like a lot of these guys that are playing for Waybacks from Great Flinders and playing for Rangers they go there because of that. So their partners can play, they can follow their kids through and all the rest of it. So it's definitely a little bit disappointing.
And there was a suggestion from Joe Franklin that Waybacks would like to play at the same venue as the football.
Waybacks would definitely be in favour of it. So, and obviously see out here to the right, we do have the netball courts out here. So Marble Range have positioned themselves really well for that if it ever is to happen. So
certainly there are at least 3 or 4 of the clubs in Lincoln who are very close with their netballers.
Waybacks being one of them.
Yeah, Waybacks being one of them. We do have a really good liaison between the two groups, and certainly we all continue to have the conversation about what would happen, and constantly are looking at the fact that how we could make it work to travel out of Lincoln to play. They're sort of suggesting about the whole Port Lincoln area be standalone, and at no stage at any time have the Football League or the Netball Association said that they want to be standalone. So I think that's one of the reasons, it definitely is one of the reasons why the SNAFL have come up and said, well, there definitely won't be anything happening in 2021, because at no stage has the league or the netball said that they want to, because in all honesty, it won't survive that way either. So why would you do it for 12 months, 2 years, when in the end it's going to affect 2 leagues, because the amount of swap over between Great Flinders and Port Lincoln.
I think there needs an overlap in the Lincoln League to the Great Flinders League as a concept, and then work from there, because, like I said, Kapiti to Kimber is a long drive.
It is, yeah.
Even Eastern Eyre, you only have to look at Tasman's football side and see how many Kimber Eastern Rangers lads over the last 4 years since they've been winning premierships have come down. So they will travel. So yeah, this is very, very interesting, and I would think one of the main reasons why nothing will happen in 2021, because there needs to be a lot more work done. And along the lines that you were saying about, whether it is a Tumby and some of the Cummins teams, or whether they think about what they're doing, whether it's Eyre United I do know that Lincoln certainly, some of the clubs down here are certainly talking about a future. Not being able to happen in 2021, but how do you run a town league and a town association netball, and then also provide the opportunity to do the other.
Absolutely, and that's what's it limits our social ability. Netball's played somewhere else completely. We have a netball club that aligns with us, but it's not actively plays with us on the same day on the same location. So it's something we can. It does need a bit of work, but we could certainly get a netball team to align with us daily or on a match day without too much trouble. We just we've also got a strong netball association in Port Lincoln, so we would be drawing out of them. So.
Although quite a few of those netball clubs are already aligned with clubs. What, 4 of them at least?
Yeah, there would be, probably 4 of them. And not to say that they don't want to be playing where their husbands are playing. Like at the end of the day, it's...
and their sons?
And their sons, and daughters in the younger age. Like it's...
I think we just have to... It will be different. It will be different. It will be costly to set up in the first place. I think the major issue is going to be convincing the Netball Association that they can run a city competition as well as because they actually won't run the country association. That will have a committee that will be involved, the same as what it is, like Eastern Eyre and Great Flinders and Lincoln are now. They would come up with another association that would run that side of it. So they're not going to have to run 2 competitions as such. They might need to hire, and they would. I'm sure that clubs would hire the courts, the bottom end courts particularly would lend itself to Lincoln to that happening. Places like Boston's, they've got the prime piece of property there to set up netball. Wangri are sort of already looking down those lines. I have no doubt that whilst the Tennis Association have just redone all their courts and they're very happy with single lot, like just their tennis lines, I think if they sort of looked at the commercial aspect of that and how the money that they could get in from renting out as well. And these days there's so many options to line courts where it's not a permanent thing. I honestly think that if people are happy to just think about it, put all the roadblocks down and think forward, that it could work.
With the city competition, you could have games during the week, or
wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yes,
it'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
At the moment, most of the A-grade netballers that I have spoken to during COVID, some of them, it's probably their cue to retire, but the rest all would really like to play Friday nights somewhere, so that on Saturdays they can either just concentrate on their coaching, because a lot of them put back into that, or concentrate on their children, or go and watch their partner play football. And they're sort of saying, to add to the Wayback Club and to the Wayback Committee, can you take that? Can you start pushing for that? Because that's where we see that competition fitting. Because you will still have those players who will want to play Friday night, but then they'll still follow the other competition on a Saturday, because they might coach, their daughter and their son. Like their son might be playing footy, their daughter might, so they'll be able to go together, because they won't have to give up themselves, because they can still do a Friday night thing in the town in Lincoln, and it might even be that there's, you might even pick up other teams from nearby who want to come in and play that competition. It's not all negative, and that they're not going to lose.
In fact, you're talking about growing sport in the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Actually, you've also got that issue with your gate.
Yeah, I think we're unique, and every time I see my mates from up west and explain to them that we don't get the gate, they can't believe it. So it's I'm not sure where it started or how we inherited it, but it's frustrating from the perspective of look, the country clubs live off their gate. Like that's where. Like our canteen is plus, like it's sell plus, our beers sell plus, but the gate is where the money stream is, where I believe the highest attended club in the league. So and this year we've done the heavy lifting with COVID, and we've had massive crowds. And yes, our canteen, our bar takings are up, but our not having any takings of the gate is like it hurts financially to run a club, and like to run a club these days, it gets more and more expensive every year, and we need an income stream from somewhere, and I think we have a right to some of the gate.
I would imagine so. What do the other clubs in the association get? Do they get some of the gate?
No one gets the gate.
No one gets the gate?
Yep, the gate goes to the league. So, and that funds the league, is my understanding, pays the umpires, and yeah, I'm sure incidentals, etc. But yeah, we don't get the gate, and yeah, I haven't met a club anywhere else that is in the same situation. So, certainly needs to be something that needs to be tabled very soon, because we lose players to other areas. Marble Range own their own property, so the infrastructure is ours, and you've been out there recently, you've seen our canteen's been upgraded, our change room's been upgraded, new goalposts recently. We've got lights on the agenda. Like we don't, the money we generate, we reinvest in our facility. So look, we wouldn't be the money, the income stream or extra additional income would go into our club. So, and we certainly would be continue to improve it as we have historically. So, yeah, certainly some talk between clubs, but we need to revisit the gate takings.
Because if you did play in Great Flinders, they would share the gate takings?
Look, it's if there was some form of amalgamation between us and Great Flinders, then we would have to have a look at the management structure of our league. The whole, like our league manages Port Lincoln League, but I can't see that that's going to adapt to any northern teams that join us. So yeah, I think look, there's a lot of challenges in what footy looks like in a few years, but the current structure I don't think is sustainable. So,
and certainly a Marble Range United Ulana grand final would be terrific.
Well, it's yeah, I absolutely agree. But we're a country club with city members, so we can't ignore the fact that our club is substantially that Port Lincoln residents contribute to the numbers in our club. So
that's why you train in Port Lincoln.
Train in Port Lincoln, yeah, Tuesdays, and training out at Wangari Thursdays from a convenience perspective for them. But yeah, it's not as, look, we're unique in we're a country club in the City League, and we're not too far from the Great Flinders League. But we have some challenges in regards to how we would tackle any sort of change in structure.
So you know what they could do, and this talk's always been on about Port Lincoln and Great Flinders. amalgamating, and no one's come up with a reason why. And Great Flinders got no reason to do it. Why would they want to do it? Because of the fact that they're playing together with this, you know, the netball and the kids and the whole family's at the same ground. But if they want to explore it, like if Lincoln and Great Flinders want to look at it, I can't see why they don't play a 4-game comp at the start of the season, like a trial game type thing, where you have the netballers play and just trial it. Just see how that 4 games. They're only trial games. They're nothing on it. Whereas people are travelling to Kapini, then they come down to Lincoln and vice versa, like as far as the other teams go, and just see how it goes like that. I don't think you have to make decisions where it changes the whole structure of everything through that one decision. Just try, because people are finding it hard to organise trial games anyway. Just do it and just see, and then get everyone's opinion on whether they reckon it's a good idea to do it. Because it makes a difference if you've actually been there and you know...
Tasted it.
Yeah, you get a feel for the travel, you get a feel for your family being there, like as far as playing that netball and how the kids' games go and everything. But no one's actually come up with that suggestion. It's all these other ideas. It's all like you've got to go at 100% or it's not at all. So why not...
Leagues are actually viable at the moment.
Absolutely. And I don't think that Great Flinders Lincoln need to amalgamate or play each other or, you know, or have 2 divisions or whatever schemes they come up with, because both leagues can survive quite well on their own. They're going to have their trials and tribulations along the way, but the idea of playing, you know, a 4-week comp between Lincoln and Great Flinders is not because you want to see how to go amalgamating them. It just might put a different slant on the week in and week out what they do during their seasons.
Yeah, mix things up a bit. And,
yeah.
Sorry, can I move that? Yep.
Forcing the ball forward from that half-back area. They're winging the ball there from the kick-outs and they're peppering the ball back into that full forward area. David Raleigh, the kick right wide to the side, looking for and finding Ray Watherston once again. He'll have sore fingers tonight with the amount of marks he's taken. Ray Watherston, the little chip kick on towards Kingsley Bilney. Possession football, that's the name of the game. That's what you've got to do now, Bostons. Kingsley Bilney, got to look for someone. Everyone's packing it up here. Everyone's down on the half-forward line or further. Out it comes in favour of Tasmans. Through comes Kenny Davey. Shovels the handball forward. Here's a chance for Bostons. Tapped on by Richard Saunders. And Hayden Davey, the general, 36 years of age, he steadies and he pops one through for Boston's. That'll be a real boost to the Boston side, chasing the first premiership since their inception in 1972.